What happens when one missile strike doesn't just hit a warehouse, but erases 3,000 tons of ammunition in less than 10 minutes? The answer isn't just a fireball. It's a logistical nightmare stretching hundreds of kilometers. Ukraine's Vila-M rockets didn't just break through Russian air defenses, they set off shockwaves across supply lines, forcing Moscow to reorganize stockpiles and rethink frontline operations. But how did the crew pull it off under radar lock, jamming, and an enemy strike inbound within minutes? And what did the mushroom cloud over the horizon really mean for the war's tempo? Before we move on, I would like you to subscribe to the channel and like the video. How does a crew launch missiles while knowing enemy rockets are already inbound and will reach them in 6 minutes? On a cold night near the front, the Vila-M battery sat in an open field, its crew of 5 locking themselves into a race against time. The Russian Zoopark M1 radar had already lit up their position, sending coordinates back to a fire direction center that would launch counter-battery missiles within moments. The Ukrainians were not blind to this. They understood the clear rhythm: detection within seconds, targeting data relayed in under a minute, and rockets screaming back toward them before their own launch cycle could finish. Inside the command vehicle, stress levels spiked as data screens flickered with jammed signals. Normally, the system's automation would program launch coordinates smoothly, calculating wind, terrain shift, and GPS drift before uploading to the guidance package. But Russian electronic warfare scrambled those signals into nonsense. Without precise positioning, the system gave them no assurance of accuracy. The crew had no option but to strip away automation and work manually, entering each value with their own hands. Accuracy depended on them inputting under pressure. 5 meters off could mean a costly miss, and there was no room for error. This meant procedures designed to take 3 minutes had to be slashed by half. Instead of running through full safety checks, double verifying coordinates, and uploading using the full digital sequence, the crew cut operations to raw essentials. Guidance data was plugged directly in under 90 seconds, while the enemy rockets were already on trajectory, shrinking the window of safety to almost nothing. Every second shaved off was another second to survive, and the clock on the radar display ticked louder in their minds than any alarm. The weapon they were preparing wasn't small or forgiving. Each Vila-M missile weighed over 800 kilograms, almost as heavy as a compact car. At its nose sat a warhead of 170 kilograms of high explosive, designed not just to flatten houses or trucks, but to pierce reinforced bunkers. Its guidance package could correct course mid-flight, even under degraded navigation, slamming through hardened concrete before delivering its payload. The crew knew what one strike could achieve, but they also knew what it would cost them if caught in place before launch. Standard doctrine dictated longer spacing between shots to disguise the missile's location and avoid detection. But under direct lock, doctrine collapsed. The only way out was speed and saturation. Instead of staggered firings, they pushed each missile out every 30 seconds, rushing the sequence. The brilliant flame of exhaust ignited the darkness, painting their field position like a beacon visible to every Russian sensor. There was no hiding now. The launch itself betrayed them. The gamble was simple: fire faster than the enemy could destroy them. Russian interceptors scrambled almost immediately. Tor M2 systems scanned rapidly, their radar lighting up as incoming threats were identified. Pantsir S-1 units whirled, preparing a storm of missiles to intercept the incoming barrage. Even the older Shilka guns kicked into action, their radars sweeping low and their cannons firing burst after burst, creating tracers that clawed into the night sky. Each interceptor volley was a ruthless attempt to swat down the Vila-M before it reached its target. From the crew's perspective, each shot leaving their launcher carried a lifespan measured in seconds of survival. Yet through the shield of counterfire, one missile refused interception. It slipped past exploding tracers and electronic interference, its signal faltering but never failing. At full velocity, it drove downward, falling toward the ammo depot's roof with purpose. The crew that launched it knew in that instant their gamble had found its mark. For them, the fight was survival. For the Russians, the impact would mark the opening moment of something far larger. Because this was not about a single explosion, but about a chain reaction waiting to redefine the battlefield. Why did one strike on a single warehouse push Russia into spreading ammunition storage across hundreds of kilometers? At 22:49 hours, the Vela M missile came down at nearly 3 times the speed of sound. Its shaped charge didn't slow when it hit the depot roof. It punched through reinforced concrete and buried itself just above stacks of explosives. A fraction of a second later, 170 kilograms of high explosive went off directly against volatile ammunition stored in bulk. The detonation was not contained. It split the roof, threw concrete into the night, and sent shockwaves through the cavernous interior where thousands of shells were packed into wooden crates. The first seconds after impact tell the story of why the strike mattered. The depot's eastern wall fractured outward like a blast shield, ripped in reverse. Shells broke free of their stacks and toppled onto floors streaked with burning debris. Wooden struts caught fire, and rows of crates stuffed with artillery shells became kindling soaked in propellant. Rockets in storage pipes began to cook off, igniting without launchers, streaking through the warehouse with no control, punching out holes in metal cladding as if the building fired on itself. Inside, the chaos resembled fireworks, but in scale, it was closer to an arsenal imploding. Moments later, the Smerch bunker, the largest and most dangerous structure on the base, went up. Built to house heavy rockets designed for long-range bombardment, it contained tons of munitions, more volatile than the rest. When its contents detonated, the ground cratered 40 meters wide. The blast sent a rising cloud into the sky that resembled a battlefield mushroom. It wasn't symbolic. It meant entire stockpiles disappeared instantly. Windows shattered in villages kilometers away, and heat signatures were tracked by satellites orbiting far above. Pilots flying hundreds of kilometers distant later reported seeing the rising column of smoke. Events like this have precedent. Viewers may recall Toropets in September of 2024, where another depot housed upwards of 30,000 tons of ammunition. That blast was so intense, international monitoring systems recorded it as seismic activity, as though an earthquake had struck. The lesson then, and again now, was the same. Concentration of huge stockpiles may improve supply efficiency, but once struck, they transform from assets into massive liabilities. This particular strike erased around 3,000 tons of munitions. In war terms, that represents weeks of sustained artillery fire pulled out of the fight in only minutes. No resupply convoy, no standard attrition could match that rate of loss. The battlefield impact showed itself almost immediately. Russia had to scatter supplies across a broader rear area, ferrying shells farther and in smaller loads. The change slowed rates of fire, strained trucks, already worn from overuse, and forced commanders to rethink how they supplied batteries, pushing at the front. The mushroom cloud was more than dramatic imagery. It was the visible sign that a frontline opponent had just lost a measurable portion of its firepower. And as the smoke rose, it confirmed for Ukrainian planners that the war was shaped not by one crater, but by the deliberate campaign to grind Russia's logistics, force dispersal, and stretch supply lines that once seemed immovable. A missile strike is not only about the destruction instantly visible. Its true weight is in how it reshapes weeks or even months of operations. When a single depot disappears, entire supply rhythms collapse. Shells that once moved in bulk now crawl forward in scattered convoys, and artillery batteries fire less. Modern battles are not only fought in trenches, they are defined in storage yards, warehouses, and silos, the quiet places where shortages decide outcomes. One successful strike can set off a chain reaction across a whole front. Consider that impact and how precision changes the balance of war.